All right, welcome to News 6 Extra. I am Christopher Heath. It is Tuesday, November the 4th. Kathleen, you've written Tuesday, November the 14th, but trying to trip me up. I see what you're up to.
Sorry.
Trying to sneak one past. I'm rocking the Citronaut today. You like that?
Oh, I like that. I like that.
A little Space U coming at you to make up for the fact that UCF got embarrassed out in Waco last weekend, so we won't bring that up anymore.
Okay. And we shouldn't mention the Cowboys game either, right?
Ooh, yeah, I didn't even stay up to watch that. I just kind of assumed that they would either squeak out a victory or disappoint me. And either way, I didn't need to see it. And then when I woke up this morning, I found out that they would have disappointed me. So,
yes.
Yeah.
So, best that you just got your rest.
Just went ahead and got my beauty sleep. In my dreams, the Cowboys are a competitive team, not in real life.
Okay, well, maybe next year.
Yeah, we've been saying that for about 30 years. It's
so have the Jacksonville fans too. We, every year is our year, but not really.
Listen, I'd much rather be a Jaguars fan right now than a Cowboys fan. Just at least, like, you've got a young quarterback, you've got some promising pieces there. Just kind of missing it. The Cowboys, they're good, but not good enough. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. It's a bad situation. Anyway. So
we'll move on to better news.
We'll move on to better news. And the better news is Candace Campos will be joining us here to discuss the weather, because the weather is absolutely fantastic. Here's Candace.
I'm News 6 Chief Meteorologist Candace Campos. After a chilly start this morning with temperatures down into those 40s and 50s, it will be a nice mild afternoon. Temperatures will continue to rebound back into the upper 70s, closing in on near average temperatures. After today, though, it is all about the 80s. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all throughout the weekend, we will be back into the mid to low 80s while we still stay mostly dry. But as we turn the corner into early next week, looking kind of downrange, we are tracking the potential for a strong blast of even colder air than what we experienced last week. We could have even a couple 30s in the mix by early next week. But in the meantime, it's all about that warming trend that is officially kickstarting this afternoon. You can see the water vapor imagery still looking mostly dry all across Central Florida as a big ridge of high pressure continues to build in. 79, that's going to be our high today under mostly sunny skies. It will be a bit breezy with winds coming out of the northeast, gusting at times between 15 to 20 miles per hour. So that once again will increase the concern for rip currents, as well as a small craft advisory for beachgoers and boaters. Later on tonight, temperatures won't be as cold. So again, early Tuesday morning, we woke up to the 40s and 50s. Today, or early tomorrow, we're going to be waking up into those 50s and 60s, even a few 70s there in southern Brevard County, down to 56 degrees tonight in Ocala. We are looking at mostly clear skies for tonight. So it's tonight, early tomorrow morning, where we will have a view of our second supermoon of 2025. It is the Beaver Moon, the only full moon in November, on November 5th. And then the next one, for those keeping track, will be December 4th with the cold moon. So we're going to be under that warming trend over the next couple of days, at least until about Sunday. That's this Sunday, November 9th. But notice what's starting to make its way through parts of the country. You can see this big blast of cold air. This is what we call temperature anomalies. This is basically showing you when temperatures are above average with the orange and below average with the blue. And you can see that blast of cold air is expected to settle in throughout Monday, Tuesday, even into Wednesday. And that looks to be that time where we could get those overnight lows down into those 30s. You can see that temperature trend continuing to warm up all throughout the weekend. And here comes that front on Monday, and notice highs potentially on Tuesday could be staying in the 60s throughout the afternoon. Some more good news if you like this nice cooler weather. We are not tracking any new areas of development in the tropics. Hurricane season officially ends at the end of this month. As get results here, the full 7-day forecast, you can see that temperatures will be trending up before they start trending down early next week.
For many of us, we woke up this morning to some very sad news, and that former Vice President Dick Cheney has passed away at the age of 84. Dick Cheney, obviously, if you grew up, when I grew up, you remember him as, both being involved in the Reagan White House and in the George H.W. Bush White House. You know him, I think, probably most obviously recently from, being the Vice President of the United States under George W. Bush. Interesting thing there is that George Bush had actually tapped Dick Cheney to lead kind of the search committee to identify a potential vice president, a potential running mate for him in the 2000 election. And ultimately, they came back and they said there's nobody better suited than Dick Cheney, who served for 8 years as vice president of the United States during both the 9/11 attacks in 2001, as well as the United States' invasion of Afghanistan following those attacks and the subsequent invasion of Iraq and the toppling of the Saddam Hussein regime. The 84-year-old passing away last night from complications of pneumonia and cardiac and vascular disease. CBS's Jared Hill has a look back at the former vice president's long career.
Dick Cheney had been a player in Washington politics for 30 years when George W. Bush tapped him to be his running mate.
He really wanted me to come on board because he thought I could help govern, be part of his team.
Cheney led the Bush administration in the war against terror following the September 11th attacks and urged military action against Iraq.
There is no doubt that Saddam Hussein now has weapons of mass destruction.
Infamously never found, Cheney blamed bad intelligence and remained an influential advisor to President Bush.
Dick Cheney, a man of great integrity, sound judgment, and experience.
Richard Bruce Cheney was born in 1941 and grew up in Wyoming. He married his high school sweetheart, Lynn, with whom he had 2 daughters. In Washington, Cheney worked as an assistant in the Nixon White House. He then served as President Ford's chief of staff and won 5 terms as Wyoming's representative in Congress. At age 37, he suffered his first heart attack. That didn't deter President George H.W. Bush from making him Secretary of Defense. Cheney was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom for his handling of Operation Desert Storm. He suffered 3 more heart attacks before becoming vice president.
In terms of the kinds of activities I can engage in professionally, there are no restrictions.
While vice president, Cheney accidentally shot and injured his friend Harry Whittington during a hunting trip, a mishap he called one of the worst days of his life.
Dick Cheney came in.
Cheney endorsed President Trump in his first campaign, but following the January 6th assault on the U.S. Capitol, he said Trump was a threat to democracy in a video for his daughter Liz's failed re-election campaign for the Wyoming House seat he once held.
He is a coward. A real man wouldn't lie to his supporters.
Despite the split, President Trump ordered the flag of the White House lowered in Cheney's honor today. Jared Hill, CBS News, New York.
Kathleen, one of the things that piece, and I know, an obit for anyone is, especially somebody with a career as lengthy as Dick Cheney's, you can go 7, 10, 20 minutes before, and not cover everything. But, as Florida goes, it was the 2000 election, the butterfly ballots down in Palm Beach County where, George W. Bush and Dick Cheney were on the ballot, and all of these votes in Palm Beach County suddenly went to Pat Buchanan of the Reform Party out of nowhere. And there's the recounts and the image of the guy with staring at the ballot. And of course, the Florida Supreme Court's involved, and then a 5-4 decision from the U.S. Supreme Court. But, a pivotal moment in our country, and obviously something, again, that directly ties to the former vice president. I mean, a storied, long career in D.C. and, of course, obviously in Wyoming politics.
Well, and I didn't know that little fact that you said about that he was supposed to head up the committee to find a running mate for George W. Bush, and he was the best pick.
Well, he'd kind of been out of. He'd obviously spent 10 years as a representative in the U.S. House, and then went to go work in the White House for, George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush's father, and then got out and he went to go work at Halliburton, one of the big oil services companies, and, obviously still connected, still knew things, but I remember, back when it was announced this would be his running mate, a lot of people were like, interesting pick, because normally, you pick somebody, conventional wisdom is you pick somebody who helps you. It's, Kennedy picks, LBJ because he needed Texas. And he was, but then, here's George W. Bush coming out of Texas, and he picks a guy from Wyoming. Like, Wyoming's got 3 electoral votes. That doesn't do you any good. And you're going to win Wyoming anyway as a Republican. So it was an odd selection, but I think, when you talked to George W. Bush, and he would say this, he felt like he needed that kind of steady hand in kind of the same way that when you looked at the choice that Obama made picking Joe Biden, Obama very inexperienced in 2008 running and knowing he was going, when he, if he won in 2008, which he did, that he would need somebody with low experience, who had more experience than Joe Biden. And so I think it's one of those interesting lessons that you can kind of take from this. So very compelling life.
Right. I mean, and watching that obit pack, you realize how much of a pivotal role he played in so many significant events from, my childhood and teenage years. And it's just, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Life well lived. Okay.
Yes.
So from one political story to the next, today is election day, municipal elections, off-year elections. Well, in Central Florida, municipal elections, I should say. There are municipal elections in other places as well, including New York City has a municipal election. We won't be covering that quite as much because we're not in New York City. There's also two major races in New Jersey and in the Commonwealth of Virginia, where they will be electing governors. Kind of an off-year weird thing that those two states do. But here at home, we have several cities holding municipal elections, and probably the most closely watched is in the city of Orlando, where you have one seat with an incumbent defending their seat in a rapidly growing area where traffic is an absolute nightmare. That's District 1. Then you go to District 3. There is no incumbent, and so it's wide open. You have, 5 candidates running for the seat. And then you go to District 5, where you have the interim council member who's there because the other council member got suspended by the governor. Of course, she's now running to get her seat back. And still, there's a lot of moving pieces in this one. Mark Lehman breaks it down for us.
Today we noticed things looking pretty busy at polling places like this one for Orlando's District 5. Now, this race has been one of the most contentious, but the seat is as equally as important as every seat that's on today's ballot. Some last-minute campaigning as Orlando voters are heading to the polls in 3 districts. Orange County Supervisor of Elections watching over the process.
This is where so much of what our daily lives, how they're affected by these local races.
There are several key issues in Districts 1, 3, and 5, including transportation and affordable housing.
I know people need housing, but don't put them all in this neighborhood.
In District 1, current Commissioner Jim Gray is going up against 3 challengers. For District 3, 5 challengers are facing off for that seat. District 5, meanwhile, has 3 candidates, including former Commissioner Regina Hill, who was suspended by Governor Ron DeSantis following her arrest last year for fraud and elderly exploitation.
I voted for redemption, restoration, revitalization.
We spoke with Hill after casting her ballot and asked about a recent clash with interim Commissioner Shan Rose. Video posted on Hill's Facebook page last week showing a heated confrontation.
Today I'm focused on the future. Yesterday troubles and things of the past don't matter anymore.
But the past still lingers for Hill. As her trial is still pending, she says her focus is on what she can do for voters if she comes out successful today.
I have not gotten off the wall. I've continued to fight for the people.
Voters in Districts 1, 3, and 5 have until 7 tonight to cast their ballots, and we'll be following the results as they come in. You can track the votes as well under the homepage of clickorlando.com. In Orlando, Mark Lehman, News 6.
And of course, we will have crews out there covering the elections all across Central Florida. There are elections, obviously, in other parts of the area as well, including out in Groveland, where they'll be filling a city council seat. So we'll have full coverage for you tonight. Polls close at 7 o'clock. I was just checking the turnout here in Orange County for the city of Orlando seat. Turnout right now hovering at about 11.5%. So pretty low, but a lot of people vote when they get off work, so we'll see if that's what ends up happening. All right, stay with us. When we come back, we'll talk about Florida's ever-expanding red light camera program that we all love so much, and the fact that the state is now becoming unaffordable. We'll talk about that on the other side of this. Stay with us. Welcome back to News 6 Extra. I am Christopher Heath. Central Florida is home to a number of wonderful things, but one of the things we are home to is basically half of all of the red light cameras in the state of Florida. Think about that. In Central Florida, half of all the intersections that have a red light camera are right here. And that's only going to get worse because a couple of weeks ago, you may remember the city of Orlando decided to basically double its number of red light cameras. And of course, not to be outdone, Osceola County is now looking at its red light cameras and saying, maybe we can add some more. Laverne McGee has this story.
Have you ever found yourself braking hard to try to avoid going through a yellow light at an intersection with a camera? Osceola County is about to get at least 3 more intersections with red light cameras.
Narcoossee at Jack Brack, 192 at Cross Prairie, Point Siena Boulevard at Orm Brown.
In Osceola County, the plan is in place to add more red light cameras before the end of the year. The additions will grow Central Florida's already outsized red light camera footprint even more. Of the 167 intersections with a red light camera in Florida, half are in Central Florida. But according to statistics from Florida Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles, they don't necessarily make roads safer. Data from 2024 shows crashes actually increased after the cameras were installed. Even still, Osceola County stands by the expansion, calling the cameras a deterrent that also brings in revenue.
So the people who are violating the speed limit or going through the red lights, they're the ones paying for this?
Yeah, they fund it, correct.
Any idea, any amounts that have come in?
Well, this last fiscal year, part of the report was that the total number of tickets brought $511,000, and then close to half of it gets sent to the state and half of it stays with the county.
We have the full list of red light camera intersections on clickorlando.com. I'm your Osceola County community correspondent, Laverne McGee, News 6.
All right, Kathleen, we're going to do a little math here because this is one of my favorite hobby horses. This is Christopher's rant for the day. So buckle up. This will be fun.
Wonderful.
So the red light cameras are all governed by state statute. And you heard the gentleman there from Osceola County say half goes to the state. That is true. Half goes to the state and it goes to dedicated trust funds. The other half stays in the county. That is both true and needs a little bit of qualification if I can. So half goes to the state, goes to various trust funds for things related to, traffic accidents and vehicle safety. The part that stays in the community, well, that has to pay for the cameras, the light, the equipment itself, pay for the companies that are doing it, also has to pay for the court costs and other things. There are costs associated with it. So of that half that stays in the county or the community or whoever's, running the program, they're only getting a percentage of that half, which means take a ticket, for example, ticket ballpark, it's not quite exact here, $150 per red light ticket. Okay, so right off the bat, $75 goes to Tallahassee, never to be seen again. The other $75 stays here. But of that $75, $30 is going to go to American Traffic Solutions or whoever your vendor is for the cameras. So you're down to $45 remaining of that $150 ticket that stays in your community. In other words, you've just taken $105 out of your community and sent it away, never to be seen again. And your benefit of that is keeping $45.
Interesting.
Yep.
But I do know that you do have to pay the vendors and, like you said, the court costs and everything else like that, and somebody to review the footage too, because they don't actually ticket you until they review it. So
they are not a net benefit. I mean, the cities and counties love them because it's like it's a steady cash stream, but you're pulling more money out of your community than it's benefiting. But
right. Well,
and listen, the data shows they don't even make things safer. But here we are.
Right. That's an interesting rant for today.
Thus concludes Christopher's News 6 Extra rant of the day. Comments, concerns, and criticisms can be sent to, or we should just put a disclaimer on there.
Right.
The views expressed by Christopher do not reflect those of WKMG News 6 or its management. So red light cameras, another one of my hobby horses, along with daylight saving time, Congress not doing its job.
Right.
Shopping carts.
Oh,
what
yes.
else?
Yes, shopping carts. Yes.
I've got a bunch. Oh, the way change is distributed at the register. There's a list. At the end of this year, on December 31st, we'll do a retrospective of all the things that have just kind of made Chris angry this year.
Okay. All right, I'll start keeping a running list,
We may have to extend the show longer than a half
well,
hour.
hopefully the government will be back open by then. So
Don't even get me started. All right.
I'm
so
not.
Speaking of the state of Florida, a new survey out, Kathleen, shows that like half of Floridians are now saying they've considered leaving the state because of unaffordability. And, we see this every day. It is hard to find a place you can afford to live, and costs have gone up, and it's getting up there.
Oh yes. I always look for new apartments, and I just cringe because it's hard to find anything cheaper than what I'm already paying, and that's not cheap.
No, yeah, you run that risk of like, well, I can live cheaper, but I'm going to have to commute an extra 30, 40 minutes to go live somewhere where it is cheaper. If I want to live anywhere near where I'm working,
right,
I'm going to pay through the nose. And yeah, I mean, every year it just seems like they just add a little bit more to the cost of your rent. And it's just, anyway, so half of Floridians have said they've considered leaving the state. They're not actually leaving the state, but as Stephanie Rodriguez reports, even still, they say the American dream is still alive. Here's Stephanie.
Would you consider moving out of Florida? I'm Stephanie Rodriguez reporting from Orlando. A new poll from Florida Atlantic University found that over 50% of people polled would think about leaving the Sunshine State because of rising prices. It went into if people still believe the American dream is achievable, found that some people are still holding on to that, but rising prices are making it a lot harder to achieve.
Is the American dream still within reach? Florida Atlantic University asked 1,000 Floridians.
And so we wanted to see if Americans are still optimistic about their life and standard of living and the economy in general.
Here's what they found. 90% are somewhat concerned about inflation, and 80% are worried about housing affordability. 36% are confident their household will improve over the next few years, while 43% are somewhat confident. And 53% still believe in the American dream.
These are big numbers. They're really concerned. And yet, despite how concerned they are, there's still kind of an unexplained optimism that they still think that things are going to be better in the future.
UCF's Institute for Economic Forecasting director tells me the increased housing prices, mortgage rates, and insurance premiums have put pressure on Floridians.
It's been a challenging time. Inflation is now, coming down. That doesn't mean the prices of everything go back down. It just means prices don't continue to rise at such a rapid rate.
And that even though it's expensive, many people are still working, which could explain consumer optimism.
Right now, the labor market, while hiring has slowed significantly, the unemployment rate, remains at historically low levels.
While 53% would consider leaving Florida, Levy thinks it's a misguided perception.
My kind of sense is that people are maybe falling for the grass is greener on the other side.
Living paycheck to paycheck has also become the norm, according to this poll, with over 40% of people saying they currently do. Reporting in Orlando, Stephanie Rodriguez, News 6.
All right. We are getting into the last bit of the holiday season here. We are getting towards Thanksgiving, Kathleen, and I got to tell you, this thing you've decided to have us wrap up on today, Oreo has come out with a Thanksgiving-inspired cookie. It includes turkey and stuffing, creamed corn, sweet potato, cranberry sauce, caramel apple pie could be good. Pumpkin pie could definitely be good. The other ones, I have some serious doubts. I have some questions, Kathleen.
Oh no, me too. First of all, I despise creamed corn.
Really?
So, yes, I can.
Have you ever? Is it texture? Is it taste? What is it?
I don't know. I think maybe it's texture, but okay. I'm not going to have an Oreo combined with cream corn, first of all. So that one's off the table. The turkey and stuffing, I don't know about that. Like, yeah, Oreo's fine, turkey and stuffing's fine. Together, no.
So this all comes in a 12-count cookie tin for $20. So you can order them and try them. I think we may have to do that. I will say this, when it comes to cream corn, not a huge fan most of my life, but I remember going to a restaurant in Dallas that did creamed corn, and they did it from scratch. And It was fantastic. Now I'm assuming it was fantastic, probably because they used like 19 sticks of butter, like heavy whipping cream,
Right.
and like made it, fresh and with tons of fat and salt and all the delicious stuff that you're not supposed to have, versus the creamed corn I'd always had as a kid. No offense to my mom, of, you pop open a can of Del Monte and dump it out and heat it up, and there you're done. So I would recommend giving it a good college try on a very solid, well-made, ultra fat, ultra salty creamed corn dish,
Right.
and just see if that may sway you. But if it's a texture thing, you're never getting past that.
Well, it's been years since I've tried it. So maybe now that I'm older and, expanded my taste buds, I don't know. Maybe I'll enjoy it. So
More sophisticated palate.
yeah, so maybe I'll try it again.
Okay.
But I don't want it with an Oreo.
No. Now, are you a cranberry person for Thanksgiving?
I am.
Okay.
I do like the cranberry. And that with the Oreo, I think may be pretty good, as well as the apple pie one. I think that would be good.
See, I'm good with cranberries, like the actual cranberries themselves, and the stuffing. I think that's fantastic. My wife does one stuffing with the cranberries, and then does another one that has bits of sausage in it. Ooh, very good. Very tasty. But I like a good gravy on top of my turkey. Nice white meat. Don't do the dark meat. Never really liked it. A little white meat. Nice. Put a little gravy. Ooh, that's tasty. I can feel myself getting tired already. Retiring to the living room while other people clean up. Watching the Cowboys disappoint me on Thanksgiving. So many bad memories.
I'm glad there's somebody else that is like the white meat only, because it tastes the same, but I don't know.
Really?
Yeah.
I've always found the dark meats just a little too greasy, a little too grizzly. I just
yeah. But I'm with you. The white meat with some gravy on it. Yeah. Now I'm getting hungry.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And then you never make that meal again. I love how Thanksgiving, we're all like, oh, it's so delicious. How many times do you make it in a year? Once? Just once. If it's so good, we do it all the time. No, just once.
Just once. Yeah.
One and done.
That is true.
All right, Kathleen, thank you so much as always. Fantastic show. We will be back. We'll be back to do it again tomorrow. So, all right. Thank you to Kathleen for putting this together. Thank you to Candace for the fantastic weather. And of course, thank you for watching. We'll be back here tomorrow at 12:30 to do this all over again. Of course, we break news all the time on clickorlando.com. And we'll be on the air today starting at 4 o'clock for News 6. And we will have live coverage of voting across Central Florida at all the municipalities. Well, not all of them. Good percentage of municipalities head to the polls, as well as the results from the city of Orlando. Polls again close at 7 o'clock. Remember, if you do go to vote, this doesn't just affect Orlando, but if you're voting today, if you are in line at 7 o'clock, you are allowed to vote. So if you get there and you're standing in line as the clock strikes 7, legally you are allowed to vote, provided you don't leave the line. They have to let you vote. So head out there, make your voice heard if you are in one of these areas that's voting today. If, like me, you don't live in an area that's voting, then just, pop some popcorn and get ready to watch the results come in. All right. Have a fantastic Tuesday. We'll see you back here at 12:30 tomorrow. See you then. Bye.